You know what? I shouldn't have responded to Mahogany Pink because it's smoke and mirrors. And I kind of realized this when I got to the end of the video. And it's like this with all these women, I swear. What I mean by smoke and mirrors is at the end of the day, these women fundamentally, at their core, do not believe in patriarchy. As I said before, it's not a matter of, if you build it, they will come. You know, um, the complaints that you hear now, and somebody else wrote it in my comment section, are basically regurgitated talking points coming from, you know, us as black men in the EL camp, trying to figure out why, we were getting so much resistance because we were basically lied to growing up. Our mothers told us, holding that carrot in front of us, that go to school, stay out of trouble, get an education, get that job and, the White House with the picket fence, and, there would be Kerry Washingtons wrapped around the block. Essentially, the black woman, that you desire, would it wasn't a guarantee, but being in that position, you would be more inclined to be able to attract them and get them, and they would be, happy and gleeful for you to, to choose them, and then you would all go off, have babies, and live happily ever after. The other thing that they didn't tell us were that everything about the black men that they complained about, the niggas in jail, the murderers in the black community, the black men that were, violating them the most because that's the ones that they were dealing with the most and having babies by, that the women were actually moved by those guys and, sexually attracted by those guys and, desired those guys. Many of us kind of arrogantly thought like, huh, why would she choose a thug over us? You know what I mean? Like, or that, again, those guys were just for play. That the women would, go out there and mess with those guys. And, because hell, we weren't perfect. We were running around, getting pussy where we could get pussy, which is typically over the fence. But we didn't think that these women would actually, sit around and have these dudes babies like they, been having these dudes babies for the last 30 years. I grew up in the burbs, and the first women to get pregnant disproportionately, were the black girls at a predominantly white high school. I mean, the girl that took my virginity is now a single mom. You know, another girl who was probably the wealthiest black girl in my, in my area or that went to my school. She's now a single mom. She and all, it was so funny is all these women had, um, fathers who were in the military. Now, I don't know, maybe, you have a dad that's in the military and maybe that's, I don't know, maybe it's too much. Maybe they're doing too much. Maybe it's too much discipline. You know what I mean? I don't know. Are they waking you up at 5 o'clock in the morning like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know I don't know what's going on, but it's like the more structure, the more discipline that house had, it's like the more girls they just wild out. I mean, the one chick, I mean, she literally went all the way down south to go to college. She could have went to Temple. She could have literally went to Temple. She could have went right down the damn, street basically. But no, she didn't go to Temple. She was like, I'm gonna go down to Georgia. Went down to Georgia and met some dude, and ended up getting pregnant and becoming a single mom. I mean, she went out there and wild out. She literally went to get as far away from her father as possible. That's at least what one of her relatives thinks. Okay. Um, and I'm trying to think who else. There's another woman that did some some wild shit. It's all in the same vein. It's all in the same you know vein of rebelliousness. And it's so crazy because you hear all these complaints about, how girls are affected because if their fathers aren't there, it's such a problem and it affects the girls and everything. But then when the fathers are there, these women are like, oh, I don't like structure, don't like patriarchy, and they run off in the other direction. Again, I'm not saying being a tyrant, but I didn't see tyrannical shit, with these women. I saw fathers that were there that were concerned about their daughters, didn't want their daughters going out here and getting pregnant. Oh, that's the other chick I was talking about. There's another chick that I was talking about. She and that's so crazy because like I actually went on a date with her. Anyway, she went off and got pregnant with some he's like a Hotep Muslim. He's a damn Hotep Muslim. And, the father, he's so upset about it. His head is just so tight because all these women, all of them grew up in burbs. I'm talking, a house with at least a 2-car garage, 4-bedroom house, them big ass, like them big ass, like type, Toll Brothers, New Orleans, type of houses, them big ass houses, right? The ones that got the big ass dining room, you got the 2-story ceilings and shit like that. Like, these are the type of houses these girls grew up in. Okay, pool in the backyard. So all this shit about, like there's no black women that are growing up with the Porsche Williams lifestyle. That's bullshit. Okay, I grew up around enough of them. Right? All they are is the female counterpart to me. But, basically we were lied to, about, how black women were being oriented to even receive us. Again, it's a nice carrot. Who would think that was bullshit? Go out here, get your shit together, and, Kerry Washington's will be wrapped around the block because all the complaints, in the 90s were basically, and black women only really had 2 complaints. When we came on the scene, by the time, I came on the scene in the, mid 2000s, early 2000s, the complaints were weight, weave, bad attitudes, and kids out of wedlock. Those were the complaints. Women have always been complaining about dudes being broke and what was it? It was dudes being broke and cheating. That was it. Not having a job and cheating. There's always been black women's general complaint. The complaints were not about y'all didn't build anything. That was not the complaint. Okay, these women are saying that all because of educated lames talking about who needs to submit to them and get with them and all that shit. Okay, just looking around and wanting to have a traditional structure. Most of these women, it's like, even if they grew up in a traditional structure with all the feminism in the background, with all of the, what the hell do you want to call it? The feminism in the background and all these like other women that, especially those that came from the inner city, that come from a long line of single mothers. They've even had a profound effect on women who came from solid backgrounds, whose fathers were in the home. Because even these women, like these rebellious suburban women that I'm talking about, even they run around, drinking the Kool-Aid, with this whole, black women being strong and independent and going to the moon and back, and they're killing it and everything else. And then they go out there busting it wide open and end up getting pregnant because they're not using protection. Again, that stupid shit about, it's his fault if he gets me pregnant. I don't need to protect myself because I can hold him accountable. That's dumb. But you're the one that's pregnant, and 9 times out of 10, you all are the ones that get stuck with the baby because you get custody of the baby, and that's going to jam you up for future relationships on getting a decent or high value man later on. And then on top of the fact, EL's wised up. That's another thing. We were the butt of all jokes. We were the cornballs, we were the lames, we were the squares and all that other stuff. But the internet changed, a lot of that. Arguably they'll say, oh, well, you all are still corny or whatever. But I'm saying the access to information changed all of that. All these games that these women run, all this, Russell Wilson bullshit. going out there and having, a baby by a nigga like Future, and then coming through and getting Russell Wilson to basically be Captain Save-A-Ho. You know what I'm saying? Like, dudes are like, yo, we're not doing it anymore. We're not playing that game anymore. Like, fuck that. I mean, and think about it. Like, even Mahogany Pink, like, she put on her as her thumbnail, she's got a picture. Why is Sierra up there? Why is Sierra the thumb on her thumbnail? Why? Why? I mean, think about it like this. I mean, just, does Future have any white baby mamas? Seriously, like, does Future have any white baby mamas? All of the Future's baby mamas, I think he got like maybe one, like, looks like she's Latina or something, but he don't fuck with white women. Future does not fuck, just to show you how desirable these dudes are to black women. Future does not fuck with white women. All his baby mamas are black. I tried to look to see if he had a white baby mama. I didn't see any. I clearly see a whole bunch of black women. And Sierra is one of those baby mamas. Russell Wilson, okay, was over there with a white woman. The white woman ended up cheating on him. We all, know that, that's part of the reason why they broke up. She denies it. That's what he claims. Supposedly she got with the teammate. But Russell Wilson, the guy who dates white women, he didn't have no kids, no babies. The minute he links up with Sierra, now he got a baby. Now he got, a baby and taken care of. He didn't even get to enjoy Sierra as, the beautiful childless woman. Like, he didn't even get to enjoy that. But it says a lot when here you got the guy that's dating the white women, the guy that black women would complain about, these niggas want white women, no babies. And then as soon as he links up with a black woman, babies. And then, again, the black rapper like Future, right? All his baby mamas are black. This man doesn't even jump the fence. You know what I mean? So when it comes to, who's out here making babies, you got to look at all the sisters that are out here messing with all these dudes that they desire, and those dudes, again, going back to, we got, 90% of the women, 80% of the women that only want to date, 10 and 20% of the dudes. That's what it's been in the community. So I take serious offense when Mahogany Pink wants to sit there and generalize and talk about, it's all black men. It's just, it's just all black men across the board and whatnot. And the only time she brings up, quote unquote, the good guys, as she called them, and the ELs and the lames and shit, is again when she wants to assign us, the busy assignment, the task of, well, you need to clean this all up. You need to clean up all this situation that you didn't create in order for us to fall in line, even though we don't even fundamentally believe in that shit. It's just like a shaming statement, shaming tactic to silence us. Oh, well, y'all, if y'all is real patriarchs, then y'all clean up all this shit, right? And there's like a knee-jerk reaction, as so-called the good guys, to be shamed into, just like how our mothers and everybody else to shame you, into responsibility. You hear a responsibility, and there's that idea like, oh, I want that positive male identity. Oh, let me take on the responsibility. But you're really getting suckered when you look at it. Trying to get you to do something. They don't want you. They never wanted you. The complaints in the black community were coming from black women were never, oh, the community's broken. Y'all haven't built anything. You haven't created opportunities for even other black men. That was never the focus. The same thing applies with the, the orientation. Orientation was to go out here and get a job. It was not to go and build and put yourself in a position where the women claim now that that's the only way that they can respect you. None of these women were community focused. They're not community focused. I mean, again, even with the whole swirl thing, oh, we're gonna divest and everything. Let me ask you a question. And how many of your white zaddies that you're going to, that you have biracial children with, are you going to demand that they contribute to the black community, right? To fix the black community. Yes, yes. Well, you're with me, white man, and you have a mixed child with me, and so again, I'm gonna one rule my child to death. You know what I mean? So yeah, you need to go and contribute to the black community. Just imagine if a so-called divester, all these women with the luxury movement and everything, all these hypergamous women, just imagine if they went over the fence and then demanded that their white men, contribute to fixing the black community of all those baby mamas and single mamas that, they had nothing to do with, and that even their resources started cutting, the white man's resources started cutting into these women's lifestyles. Sorry, honey, I can't get you that Escalade because I'm over here helping the black community as you said I should, which is essentially the same thing, the same arguments that these women are making about, the ELs and the educated lames and the so-called, category of high value men, I'm using air quotes, in the black community. At the end of the day, they don't want, us as a category. They do not want us as a category. They never have, and they essentially never will. It's a busy assignment to shut us up about, following complaints about who's not getting with them and how they ain't down. And like somebody wrote in the comment section, it's damage control, because right now they look like idiots. They look like fools. It sounds cool to say, y'all haven't built anything. That whole conversation came up because we as black men came online questioning, what the fuck is going on? Because we didn't get it from our parents. We most certainly didn't get it from our mothers. Our mothers ain't gonna tell us. I mean, hell, even my own mother told, when she saw some interview with Jay-Z talking about, and this is like 10 years ago, she's talking about Jay-Z, he's actually quite attractive. All because she never heard Jay-Z talk in an interview. She only heard Jay-Z freaking, rapping and stuff like that. But, once he started wearing the blazer and I think he sat down and had the conversation with Vance Jones, she was like, oh, I'm like, ain't this some shit? Look at this shit. You see? And then like the other thing, just to show you how much it's a busy assignment. Like I started thinking about all these things that Mahogany Pink was saying in her video, and she like she throws it out there. And if you don't catch it, you'll sit there and you'll listen to these type of women and be like, oh, they're all about the patriarchy. It's just that black men haven't provided it, right? That's what she tries to argue. But the first thing, like when she talked about right before she spoke on Anthony in her last video, right? It wasn't directly her last video, but the video that I addressed prior to this. What was that one called? I forget what I called it. The sadism of black male coaches or whatever. Right in that video, right before talking about Anthony, she brought up, what patriarchy is supposed to be, and if that's the arrangement, and if that's what you want to do, if you want to be a stay-at-home wife, but we have to give up our aspirations. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a patriarch. I mean, in other words, if you got to put it in that context, if you got to make it sound like it's this nasty raw deal, you know what I mean? Like it was like pulling teeth. Like she acknowledged, like, okay, I understand that that's what the arrangement is, but I don't particularly care for it. If you have to give up your dreams and aspirations, I mean, to put it like that, I'm like, yeah, chick, you don't like patriarchy. The next thing that she did was where she like even in this recent video I addressed, where she showed that video of Sophia, Oprah Winfrey playing Sophia in The Color Purple, running through the cornfields, talking about our matriarchal ancestors. I'm like, oh, here we go back with the, it's in our DNA, to fucking be like this. And then the whole thing is like, okay, so that was The Color Purple. The Color Purple was like in the 1920s and the 1930s. Okay, so what was going on in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, where you had black men who, after World War II, They were gainfully employed. America was having a booming economy. There was a rise of a black middle class. And, you had neighborhoods and communities, that were thriving. Right. I mean, hell, even in the 1920s, you had, thriving black communities. But I'm saying, especially, Tulsa, and places like Rosewood. But I'm saying, like, what was that? Like some sort of like blip? Was that some sort of just like, temporary bubble where all of a sudden, black women were conforming? I already showed the images of black women in the 1940s and the 1950s and whatnot. Again, I even got family images of that shit. These women were well taken care of. They were running around with their Marilyn Monroe dresses, taking trips and vacations at the beach and whatnot. I mean, these look like well taken care of women in the all up in their femininity. But again, Mahogany Pink goes back to the color purple, 1920s, talking about our matriarchal ancestors. So is it in your DNA or is it not in your DNA? Because if it's in your DNA, then the conditions have nothing to do with it. If you're saying that you're built like this, going all the way back to some ancient African shit, how far back do you want to go with? I want to know when this ancient matriarchal DNA, from your ancestors, your matriarchal. I want to know when that shit started, and I want to know when it stopped, or I want to know when it started, when it stopped, when we went through the period in the 50s, and then suddenly, then y'all went back to matriarchal ancestors. Like, how was there this discontinuity in the middle, right? If it's all about what's in your DNA, because again, our matriarchal ancestors, like dumb shit like that. What was the other thing? There was another thing that she said. Oh, bringing up the LGBT community. And all these women, all these fake ass, these feminists in camouflage always do this bullshit, where they always bring up LGBT. What does LGBT community have to do with a participating in a patriarchal community? What the fuck does that have to do with that? Y'all stay bringing up the LGBT, community and what their needs are and everything. Guess what? As a heteronormative cisgendered male, I'm not obligated to the LGBT community. I'm not obligated to the alphabet gang. I don't believe that they should be attacked or harassed and everything, but I'm not equalizing what they're on with what I'm on. You know what I'm saying? And, like, I don't owe them anything. If anything, the argument is that there's an exchange and agreement between me as a heteronormative cisgendered black man and between heteronormative cisgendered black women and the children that we have together. That is it. But these women keep trying to bring in all this leftist, liberal, outside shit, alphabet gangs, all these other coalitions and shit. And I'm like, yeah, because you're trying to, again, you're aligning yourself with the other groups that are anti-patriarchal. LGBT is anti-patriarchal because patriarchy is not going to recognize them, whether it's a black patriarchy or white patriarchy or any other patriarchy. You know what I'm saying? You take that bullshit, take that LGBT shit, take that shit over to white zaddy that you're going to, and then go tell them about how, as a black woman, how they need to not misgender somebody, and see how long you last over there with that bullshit. You see what I'm talking about? Like, so, like, when you look at all of this, it's like, and then there was another thing that she did, that was, in the same vein. But it's like when you put all of these things together, it's like this woman is not a patriarchal woman. These women are using excuses, to basically to facilitate their argument. I mean, that's just what it is, point blank, period. And it's a smoke screen. It's just like, on the male end, let's say we're talking about colorists. Okay. You got colorists that are smoke screening with black women's bad attitudes. But, at the end of the day, they just feel that black women are not attractive enough, period. They're not attractive enough to do any of the stuff that a man is supposed. They don't want to do it for a sister because they're not attracted to sisters. And on black women's end, you have black women that like they look at black, like in other words, like a black woman's beauty. It's just not equivalent to other races of women. They like exoticals or whatever the fuck it is. And when you get over to black women, it doesn't matter what a black woman accomplishes or achieves or whatever he does to them. Black, we're just not supposed to be in the leadership position. That's just how they view it. We're just not supposed to be in the leadership position. We're just not supposed to be quote unquote, submitted to. Let's use that dirty word, right? And so, the way that I see it, these women can try to do all the damage control that they want. The men are going to go, where they're celebrated, not tolerated, where they've been going, where all these women complain about, and that's what they're going to do. I personally, I really wish, and I said this before, I really wish that there were more black women going over the fence because there's not enough feedback yet. There needs to be more of them going over the fence in order for there to be more feedback because, in my belief, I don't think the majority of them really have what it takes. They want to claim, oh, we're going to do all this switch up because, it's real patriarchy over there. And we don't have no problem with submission. But if we're going to submit, we're only going to submit to the masters of the universe. Right. Which is white men. Right. That's what they're saying. But like, I don't believe half these bitches. I don't. All that knee-jerk reaction shit, all that you go girl magic, black girl magic, and everything else, all that stuff, that we bump heads with them on, some of them are going to be foolish enough to take that shit over the fence. And if they are able, to get a white guy or some other non-black man or whatever, man, that shit's going to bubble right to the surface. It's going to bubble right to the surface. You're going to start seeing, sisters with kids out of wedlock over the fence. I remember when Karazin had to address that shit. There were women that were writing her letters and shit like that. And she was like, whoa, 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 whoa. We are not going over the fence to have kids out of wedlock. Karazin literally had to make a video about, this is before the pink pill. This is when she was just Crystal and Karazin. But she had to make a video about that shit. Captain Solo and I, we were sitting there like, oh, look at this shit. Oh, you mean to tell me that even when you go over the fence, that you're still bringing kids out of wedlock over the fence? I'm like, how is that possible? We thought it was all about the black man, right? And Karazin, she blew a gasket. She was like, we are not bringing kids out of wedlock over the fence. Because, again, that looks bad. It's like, shit, we're saying that this is all about black men and y'all bitches is bringing this behavior over the fence. Fuck that. No, Chad must marry you and he must get down on one knee and he must recognize the beauty that you are. Like, they were just going crazy with that shit. So, because they want to, come online and act like, there are these, there's these, angelic princesses that are just victims to the evils of black men. So, I honestly, I want more of them to go over the fence because then I think a lot of the delusion will dissipate and then we can have real conversations. But because since they don't have any track record or history of being over the fence, they're in experiment mode. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And so, in the next 25 years or so, I'm saying if that, continues and takes place and the numbers jump or whatever, all we're going to have is a greater beige population and dark-skinned black people will still be associated with poverty and, light-skinned people will be associated with wealth from, their parents that have half white. It'll be some South Africa situation. And maybe the biracials will get to a critical mass and they'll become, just like the coloreds of South Africa, they'll become the coloreds of America, right? And they'll have their own communities and they might, split up into, whatever their own political party. right? Just like they are in South Africa. So, yeah, I'm just saying, I mean, just looking at the shit, listening to, the things that she was saying, I'm just like, you know what, like this is just bullshit. It's bullshit, So, I hope this answers. There was a question that somebody asked about, what do I think that, black men got wrong, especially, those in the EL camp. Like I said, what we got wrong, there's, this idea that there were Kerry Washington's going to be wrapped around the block, this carrot that we were sold, that was wrong. And the idea that, how badly black women, felt that the thug category of black men was sexually desirable. I mean, I'm talking about the thirst for these guys. We definitely underestimated that. Even with the even when it first started, like, and I would have to go back to, Cap's era, when it first started, because, hip hop and gangster rap and everything, we would say, let's say that shit really started about 1988, 1989. And, Cap, he'll say point blank that he thought that shit was, hip hop was just, it was just it was a fad, that it was going to come and then it was going to go. That's what people literally thought. Because you got to keep in mind, prior to that, everything was bands and black people, like actual bands, like, Prince and Charlemagne and freaking groups like Switch, the Jackson 5, like people played instruments, you know what I mean? And all you got is some guy, that gets on the mic, the hip, what I mean? Like all that shit, like, no, like they didn't think that shit was going to last and blow up the way that it blew up. And then when it blew up, or then you had the crack in the 80s, and then you had these drug dealers, and they were, selling crack cocaine and all that stuff. I mean, these guys, were in and out of jail. They didn't have, they didn't have real stability. They didn't have, pensions and stuff like that. You couldn't fathom that a woman would actually go out there and have a dude's baby like that as a viable option. You know what I mean? Like you just didn't think that that's what women were actually out here doing. But the more the drug dealing and all that became, a way of life, the women that were growing up in that's how they saw the shit. And everything was cool until, 1994 crime bill, RICO charges came, and dudes were going away for long periods of time, 20 years. I mean, again, that's the whole growth period of a child. If a chick had a baby in 1994 and then a dude got hit with a RICO charge and he did 20 years, which I've actually seen. I know somebody whose father did 20 years. You know what I mean? And she, that father saw his daughter grow up behind bars, and, he was out here, flipping keys and shit like that. And, it's just crazy when you think about it, just how like it actually became, a way of life. And then again, hip hop culture, the media promotion that surrounded hip hop culture made it it gave it legitimacy. And then all of a sudden the arguments turned into that these guys were in jail or they were broke, or that they were cheating. They were not faithful because, they were running around. Again, these were the guys that the women were fucking with. These are not the guys that these women didn't want to deal with. Those were the complaints. It was not about, oh, the community is broken and y'all need to build this and build that and the infrastructure's this and where are the supermarkets in the black community? Those were not the complaints. Those are complaints that are filed after we actually brought them up because we were questioning, well, what it is that patriarchs are supposed to do? Since we brought up the term patriarchy. And those conversations mainly came from Captain Solo's back and forth with Thugtician about what a middle class is supposed to do. Once we got into the idea of class and economics and the field Negro versus the house Negro, and this whole idea of, well, what is the house Negro supposed to do, and how does the middle class work in other communities? Well, the middle class is a segue between the elites and the proletariat, and they're supposed to basically be the transition between being in the lower class and upward mobility into the upper class, or upper middle, or upper, no, yeah, the lower upper class. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're supposed to be, whether you get a job from somebody like that or whether you move just straight through the middle class, but that's been broken since the 50s, and you can go on YouTube and you can find a bunch of videos where people, a lot of the black boule, like, they just went off to just live, the lifestyle in the burbs, live like how the white people were living. And that's all they did, basically. They're like, hey, I got a good job and I'm living the American dream. I mean, in the hell, that's what we were taught. We were taught, let's say, like, I don't know, let's just say the college matriculation rate in 1990 was like, or 1980 was 10%. We were told that, well, if we increase the numbers, it's kind of like Jay-Z's "My Presence is Charity." If we increase the numbers, if you were in school, then you were doing something positive and you were increasing those numbers, right? And so you were making black people look better, just black people as a whole, because you were in school and you were doing being a positive thing, and you were the antithesis to the negative statistics that we were all hearing growing up about niggas in jail. Right? That's what we were told. But there was no, you all need to go off and build. And there most certainly wasn't, you need to go off here and get your shit together and go to school and get an education coming from our black mothers so that you can go out there and take care of a single mother. That was not taught. Women come online and they'll talk that shit, but women are not actively teaching their sons that they need to go out here, get an education, get their shit together so that they can take care of some other niggas' babies. They're not doing that. That I'm not going to put on the mothers. We got these other women out here that are trying to shame black men with X, Y, and Z, but that part I'm not putting on the mothers, because the mothers weren't teaching that. They just kind of assumed, despite the fact of whatever it is that they were attracted to, they were assumed that somehow if they encourage their sons to stay out of trouble, that there would be some black girls out there that would be interested in them. And and this is what I said when I brought up the point about black women raising their sons to be with other races of women. This is why Cynthia G's up there blowing a gasket talking about we need to stop birthing them because we can't change them in the face of the current conditions in the world. Because you have black women that have a different orientation. I'm like, you can raise your son to be as good of a sensitive black man as you possibly want him to be. Them sisters ain't gonna want him. They're not gonna want him unless he's a savage. That's the sad part. And then the women come online and complain about the very savagery, and black women are getting killed and they're getting murdered and they're getting violated and these males are violent. And that's what y'all are attracted to. Why y'all come online and try to fake like that doesn't make your panties wet? That's the crazy part. Oh my God, he's got a gun. Oh, my vagina just starts flowing. Ooh, oh, I feel protected. Ooh, there's all that shit. They want to sit there and act like they're not moved by that. Again, what they say versus their actual actions are two different things. What they say they want, what they say they're interested is not actually what they want, nor what they're actually interested in. And then when, there's nothing but confusion and they don't get what they want, then they're just frustrated. They're just so frustrated. And especially if they got a baby after the fact, they're just completely frustrated and angered. And then they want, somebody to come through and rescue them and just change like that. And it just doesn't work that way. On top of the fact that, the EL category, the EL group is recognizing we're not coming in here just to be the cleanup man. We're not going to be the backup man. Okay, we're not going to be, you were turned up. We're not going to be you're turned down. Okay, we're not going to be the turn down dude. So when you decide that you want to turn it down after you've been running around all lit and turn up and everything, that you going, come over and then, we're going to get, um, basically, a woman and all the baggage that we don't want. All because now, you need stability. You see all these women calling Kevin Samuel's show. They want stability. They want to be stay-at-home wives. They come through trying to shame with patriarchy. Y'all black men, they conflating populations left and right. Knowing damn well, like, it's so funny how they conflate populations, because I'm like, you all were making distinctions the whole entire time. You're making distinctions between two populations. You knew who you wanted to fuck and who you didn't want to fuck. Now all of a sudden they try to lump it all together as though the black man is just this one monolithic dude that was out there selling drugs in the early 2000s, went to jail, decided that he was going to clean his act up, got multiple baby mamas, left a bunch of black women as single mothers, with kids and everything. Went to school, got his education. I don't know how he's getting FAFSA at that point. But anyway, went to school, got his education with his felony, and then graduated and, went off and married a white woman to live happily ever after. And so so he's over there taking care of his half white family, but he left the black woman as a single mother in the ghetto, all destitute. Like, literally, that is the composite black man that they want to argue against online. Drug dealer to, freaking black man working at, Morgan Stanley or Charles Schwab or, Goldman Sachs, you know what I'm saying? Or Berkshire Hathaway. like for real, that's who your baby daddy is, for real. Yes, because that's what these black men do. They go out here and they make the black woman the come up woman, and then they leave her, and then they go off and get a white woman. And I'm like, for real. Like, no, majority of these guys were in the category of the dudes that you didn't want. That's just a fact. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to add. No, I guess that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for now. If I can think of something else, I'll come back to this conversation. But the complaints were not about building up the community and shit like that. And again, like I said, where are these black women getting ready to get with a black man who's taking his disposable income to fix the community, and who's not going to have the disposable income? So y'all just assume he's got enough money to mentor some boys and, contribute to the local YMCA and go out here and, set up shop and try to, create businesses and gainful employment for other black men. And then he's going to have enough money left over to go off and then take you, to Cancun. Like, no, like the pioneers, like that first wave is going to get very little return on investment. Real talk. They're going to get very little return on investment. I mean, if they set up a business or something like that, that's different. If they go in there and they try to set up a business, but in terms of the shit that, mentoring other black boys and having to come out of your pocket for these boys because these boys' fathers aren't there, that's definitely going to cut into your lifestyle. And if these women are running around talking about, hypergamy and luxury, level up and all this other shit, I'm like, let's see how much you really are about the community versus you wanting to have, your own, classy luxury lifestyle and all that shit that they're talking. And like I said before, it's the whole part of the whole issue, even like with the whole gold digging thing. And let me just add this, it's the fact that for so long, black women have been out here, when they want to talk about loyalty and they want to talk about how they supported black men, they were supporting Dusties. They were supporting the men that they were attracted to. And the fact that those men got these women off of the strength of nothing, And now that these women are older or whatever it may be, may possibly have a baby, and then they come online, and now they want, somebody to basically be a sponsor. And they want somebody to come through and they feel they want to come with all the shaming tactics about, because they feel that the black woman was devalued, in all these woke conversations. Now, even though they were participating in a lot of this bullshit, now they want to say, oh, the black woman was devalued and we sold ourselves short. And because we sold ourselves short, you all must pay, backed taxes, with compounded interest. It's like, wait, what? But chick, why do I have to? Because you're a black man and black men owe us. Whoa, 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 whoa. Again, you were making distinctions between the categories before. Now all of a sudden you want to make us all one monolith and try to pretend like the men who used and abused you, who are the ones that you were attracted to when you were fucking, are the same as the men that you're now demanding that they wine and dine you and take you on trips and luxury this and luxury that. And, you're now all of a sudden you're not dealing with a man if he's not, wealthy or, doesn't have, money and resources and whatnot. I'm having a brain fart. Which, I think it's a positive thing for women to say, we're no longer going to get with men who, don't have it together. We need to choose better and everything else. I can accept that from a childless woman. A childless woman, a young childless woman that says that, I'm like, okay, nah, this is your first time around, life. So, I can totally tolerate hearing that come from them. Okay. But women who are out here, who got some age on them, who got history out here in the streets, who got babies, especially, like, no, I ain't listening to that shit from y'all. Like, no, fuck out of here. So that needs to be stated. I can listen to that shit when it comes from, single, childless, young women. I can listen to that shit. But women who been out here, women who were riding the cock carousel, and I can't listen to that shit about how they want to level up. It's like, no, we don't want you after the cock carousel. We damn sure don't want you after having, some Dusty's babies, and then you talking about you now know what your worth is. You now know what your value is. I was listening to some silly ass woman on Kevin Samuel's show talking about my cookies is worth it. You know what I'm saying? She was like, no, my cookies is worth it. He gonna have to wait. It's like the men that impregnated you twice, the man that impregnated you twice didn't have to wait. You know what I'm saying? He got you off of the strength of nothing or less. My cookies is worth it. She just didn't get it. Every time he broke some shit down, she was like, oh, wow. Okay. Some of y'all know exactly the woman I'm talking about, but that shit was just, I was listening to that shit the other day and I was sitting there, I was like, shit, this woman she just is in complete fucking denial. She said, Kevin, my cookies is worth it. He was like, no, hold on. Your cookies ain't worth it. Like, what you talking about? Oh man, that shit was too funny. The delusion is strong. Delusion is strong out here. But anyway, I think that's all I got for y'all today. That's my video, SWP out. Oh, and I remember the other thing that she said in there. The fourth thing that demonstrates, I'm like, yeah, she's on some matriarchal shit. When she was like, yes, and when black women get together, it's magic. And somebody called me out for sighing in the background. I didn't even realize that could be heard. But yeah, when she said that, I just rolled my eyes. I was like, oh, here we go with this shit. Because it's all in the same vein. Like, I know where that shit comes from. You know what I'm saying? Women who are properly oriented in patriarchy, they don't talk like that. They don't talk about their DNA. They don't talk about magical powers and sorcery. They don't bring up the LGBT community as, something that black straight men need to invest in. And what was the other thing? And they don't act like, patriarchy is this, raw deal for women where women are giving up their aspirations. You know what I mean? So you take all four of those things and you put them together, I'm like, nah, I got a matriarchy, like Cap Solo said in that video where he was addressing the woman talking about feeding 12 people with one egg. Now I got a matriarch in the midst of us. Oh, I can sense it. There's a disturbance in the force. Yeah, and that's exactly what I pick up on. I'm like, it again, and it's things in conjunction with one another. It's not, you can't say this with just one. I got four. That's why I'm saying it. Anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out.